Hey, this is Ryan Patrick, the writer and director of Gremlins
You might
Recall.
be thinking,
Yeah,
why
so let's
did they
just
do
get right
that?
into it. This is kind of
Is
our
everything safe?
explainer
My
infomercial
kids gonna
scene where
remember
we kind
they
of
can't
just
eat
catch
it out
everyone
there.
up with what is
Can't
happening
get it
in the
wet.
Gremlins world.
Can't take it out in the
Um,
sunlight.
this was scene was
Here,
we shot this
have
twice actually. We shot it
worry no
once
more.
on set
Because
with
now you can
with
feast
our actor,
won't
and then
you?
again in a studio
Soak it.
as kind of a
Won't
pickup
wilt.
day,
Bake
just
it in the
because
sunlight and it
the
won't
first
melt.
time we just didn't
Why?
get the puppet right.
Because
I don't
rain is
think we didn't
finally ready
have
to multiply your family
it able to
with
blink
one
its
drop of
eyes, so we
medication,
just kind of did it
white
again.
glove delivery to
And
your
it's fun if
door.
you call that number right there, you'll actually get the Wing
When it comes
Corporation.
to
So
love,
give that a try.
who can't love a muggle?
And then we have our big opening moment here, where we see some credits. So something that we talked about a lot when we were starting to prep the film was, how do we shoot these bigger moments where, the camera needs to pan and move around. And my initial thought was, let's get a Steadicam guy in there for one day, and and we'll just kind of track around the space, for some of the scenes. But Isaac had a great idea. He's like, if you want this to feel kind of like referential to the 80s, let's do dolly and handheld and tripod and never do a floating Steadicam. Will give the camera a lot more weight and presence in the room, which is totally true and actually really works. When I was making this movie, when I was writing this movie, and even when we were shooting this movie, I was kind of constantly wrestling with how do we treat the gremlins in this film? What can we do practically with our budget? The first Gremlins movie is a kind of more of a dark comedy. The second one really takes that to the extreme with the kind of camp and silliness of it. And I was also thinking about today, like the kind of movies that we're watching today, kind of the meta superhero world of the new Thor, Ragnarok, and also the kind of grittiness of Christopher Nolan's Batman movies. And so I kind of wanted to do a little bit more grounded approach to the Gremlins. I of course would have loved to go crazier if I had the money to do massive gremlin scenes with hundreds of puppets, but we couldn't have done that. So I think and I'm sure some gremlin fans will disagree with me that I thought this was the right approach to make it a little bit more stylized, a little bit more grounded, but still kind of retain some core elements of that gremlin feel. So it was a fine line. This is our reveal of Trink here. She is a practical puppet with eye blinks that were created in CG.
She's run, so I like to keep it separated.
We kind of had a team of puppeteers, myself included, but Trink was always a puppeteer named Delaney, partly because Trink is such a small puppet, and it's hard to fit a hand inside there. And also, she's often in very tiny places, like in a car or under a table, where it just made sense for having someone that was a bit smaller to creep into those spaces. We didn't have the luxury really of building sets up on raised platforms. This location is a diner location in the Sun Valley, which is near Burbank. It's been in everything from Drive to the Netflix show Glow. So it is kind of a very maybe overshot location, and one of the things that I think helps differentiate the look of ours is that I originally wanted to be like, oh, diners are fluorescent inside. It's all like white fluorescent light. But we had this idea of giving each space a different lighting temperature, a different feel. So if you notice, like the inside of the diner is very tungsten, it's very warm. The immediate outside where she carries that milkshake is kind of like this blue-ish fluorescent light. And then outside here, when she's in the parking lot with Trink here and in these scenes outside, it's kind of like a sodium vapor street light. So it's super orange and super moody. And then you'll see later the kitchen is very kind of greenish cyan, I would say. So each space kind of has very distinct lighting palette. And I think that helps sell the location in a kind of a new way. You don't really see it shot like this as much. The hand here is just our creature effects guy. He built just a single hand that could move its fingers on wire, and he's just sitting in the back of the truck grabbing that cherry. One of the big things for me with this because we didn't have an unlimited budget, was to really kind of nail some sound design that makes the world feel bigger and makes the creatures feel like they're doing a lot more than you see. I just kind of refer to it as, the kind of Jaws, you're Jawsing it, where you don't see the creatures as much as you would want to, which I think helps to add some, mysterious elements to the film, but also allows us to get shots off that tell the story without having tons of puppets in the frame, which something that we just couldn't do. So I worked with Jackie, our sound designer, to really craft voices from animals and human actors to give the Gremlins a unique sound and feel. The cocoons here were originally supposed to have smoke and stuff coming out of them on set, but every time we put dry ice in them, it just wasn't funneling out of the cocoons. It was kind of just falling on the bottom. So we digitally put some steam in there. And this truck is from a cinema truck rental place. It's a very bizarre truck. It kind of has that like vault back, and it's perfect for this. But it looks like an old delivery truck, which is nice. So coming up here is our kind of our first reveal of the Gremlin. The Gremlins and the Mogwai puppets took about 3 months to make, and Eric Fox, our creature guy, and his team, they first sculpt them in clay, and then they cast molds of them so they can make more of them and make them into puppets. And here you can see a shot that was originally supposed to be Claire. When she looks into the diner, she sees her aunt up against the window with her eyeball like bloodily falling out of her socket. And it was a cool prosthetic effect that we put on our actress, and when we screened it for people kind of testing the edit, they were like, why would she want to see a bloody face and then just like walk right into a diner? And I was like, that's a good point. Motivation doesn't really work there. So we shot that scene without her there in the window, and we used that instead as kind of, she's intrigued, she's trying to figure out what just happened, which obviously makes a lot more sense. Again, this is one of those moments where, in Jurassic Park or Jaws or something like that, where something moves, done by the creature, but you don't see the creature, which obviously helps us immensely in terms of keeping things contained and within the scope of our project. I wanted to figure out a way to melt a gremlin, because I think the gremlin deaths are a lot of fun, and I think this UV light, which is kind of like a UV bug zapper that you would find in these diners, was a fun way to do it. We originally actually wanted to melt one of the puppets, but what we need to do that, we need like these these propane heat guns, and this location is such, like I said, it's a well designed and well already kind of thought out that bringing these like massive heat elements would just kind of potentially destroy the space. So we just opted for these kind of jump cut moments instead. I actually puppeted this gremlin from directly behind it, and then we just digitally erased my body from the shot later. This moment kind of circles us and brings us back to the very first thing we saw in the diner, the cowboys on TV. And our actor Owen here was actually wearing a blood charge, where he could be rigged up, and we could actually blow kind of a hole in his shirt with blood spattering everywhere. So we had a stunt coordinator come out for one of the couple hours and rig him up, and so he could actually get shot, and kind of feel it. So he had done it before, so he wasn't worried about it, and we did it in one take. This gremlin here is one of our only robotic gremlins, and it was remote controlled, which was fun to build and to see in action. And then in this shot where they're in the car, it's actually the same robotic gremlin on the right, and then that's me puppeting the one on the left again, just crouched down there. And our art director's driving the truck away. And then we have this nice kind of, I always call it kind of our B-movie moment, where they kind of resign themselves to go after these gremlins with kind of a slightly cheesy line, which was intentional. And then we see kind of our moment where, the story could continue. I would love to see Claire, slaughter tons of gremlins, maybe on horseback, like she grew up on a horse farm. So, why not? That'd be awesome. But, yeah, this was a blast to shoot and a blast to be working on for like the past almost about year. And I'm excited it's finally out there, and we had a great team, over 75 artists, working on this to make it come to life. So, yeah, that's it. Thanks for watching.